Hello, everyone, and welcome to My Curious Mind podcast. I'm Stephen Rulli, your host, and I'm so excited to have you join us on this journey of discovery. Every episode, we dive into thought-provoking conversations, exploring fascinating ideas, and uncover the mysteries of life that spark our curiosity. Whether you're into science, philosophy, personal growth, or just love to laugh and learn something new, you're in the right place. Before we get started, I did want to mention we do have merch. Please check the link in the bio to buy all things My Curious Mind and help our podcast grow. Also, if you're on Spotify, make sure you hit that follow button. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and like this video. So, grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's explore the world together. Are you ready? Let's get started. We are live. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. You?
Yeah, I'm doing good. So I was super excited that you reached out to me and that we were talking a little bit. So where I want to start today is just you run a local church in the community. I've heard some about it. I haven't heard much about it, but obviously I want to hear from the guy that's running the ship. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm not the guy running the ship.
Yeah.
We have a team of pastors here. First, I'm David Seaton at Heights Community Church. I grew up here in Collinsville. Ended up going to ministry around 2009. 2011, my wife and I, we had our boys. There were two at the time. We moved to Benton, Illinois. I was a youth pastor there for 4 years. And while I was there, just my view of ministry changed a ton. Like, I used to just have this mindset of like, I want to grow a big youth ministry, build up a resume that looks good, and move on to a bigger church, kind of climb the church business ladder in a sense, you know. And my time in Benton just really radically changed how I viewed all that. And so I really felt like I was supposed to come back to my hometown and start a church. And so we moved back in 2015, and we did what's called church planting. Most people don't really know that term because it's like a church term. So it's church planting is essentially starting a new church from nothing. And so we moved back, and that's exactly what we did. I started a church called Collinsville Community Church, and we just started meeting in my home, which progressed to Sunday morning services at the Knights of Columbus Hall, which is where we're sitting right now. It's just not the Knights of Columbus Hall anymore. It's Heights Community Church. September of 2016, we launched on Sunday mornings, and then that just grew. And normally churches, when they first start, it takes years to find a building and move into it. And so we just got really blessed, and we bought a building up north end of 159 here in Collinsville, and it was a church that had closed down. We got it really cheap, like 7 months into starting our church, and about 11 months in, we were moved into it and no longer set up and tear down on a Sunday morning, just had a building 24/7, which is sweet. You know, it just helps so much.
Yeah.
And we were growing and reaching people, and then you go back in time a little bit. There was another church that started in Collinsville called Heights. Corey Johnson and Jeff Nail, they had started Heights, and we were all the same age, kind of same mindset of ministry, became friends, and they were meeting at the YMCA on Sunday morning, set up and tear down, and had done that for years. They had been saving money and had a goal of $550,000 to buy a new building, but they're about $380,000. And then in September of 19, there was this conversation, they got a hold of me, hey, we can't meet at the Y for a month. They're redoing the gym floors. Could we use your space? I was like, definitely, want to make that happen. But that led to a conversation what if we did this together instead of being two separate churches? What if we did this together? Neither of our churches needed to be bolstered up from another church. We were both fine. So we started this conversation, and our goal was to merge as one church on March 15th of 2020. Well, in September of 19, we had no clue that COVID was going to just pop off in the middle of 2020, right? Or in March 2020. And so we were progressing, everything's lining up. and then the world shut down. And we went ahead and pulled the trigger and merged as one church. And what happened, and COVID was rough, and it's like, I'm not downplaying that at all, but we had 3 months where we couldn't meet in person and everything was just online like many churches had to do. And what was cool is you got two different congregations of churches then coming together and getting to know me, getting to know Corey. We were going to be co-lead pastors at the time, but yeah, we're what's called elder led. Just all of our pastors are equal, the same, and so we had different roles and different lanes we run in. And so, man, we progressed through COVID. At one point, I just felt like I wasn't supposed to be co-lead pastors. My heart really is behind like missions locally and internationally, and just helping other guys start new churches. So I stepped down from being co-lead pastor, and I'm over missions and church planting now. And I still preach some, which I really enjoy doing. I love getting to do that. But so Corey's the lead pastor. We have there's 6 of us total as pastors at our church, and man, it's been really cool because then we were at that building, we outgrew it, we broke every statistical norm that they say would happen in a church. Like once you're 80% full, you're not going to grow. Well, we did. They said you need one parking lot for every like 1.75 people. We were double parking and trying to just make it happen. And then we got to buy the Knights of Columbus Hall after they moved into St. Peter and Paul. We remodeled it. We've been in here just over 2 years. When we sold the building up on 159, the cool thing was that goal they had of $550,000. The equity in that building was the difference to that $550,000 goal they had originally. Yeah. And you can't make that stuff up. Yeah. It's just really cool. And we've been in here now, like I said, just over 2 years and just growing, reaching new people who are really, I would say, like a lot of them unchurched, maybe de-churched, disenfranchised with church. Yeah. And just coming and seeing like a different side of it.
Yeah. It amazes me like how church has been like misconstructed to like, especially like people my age. Because then when I tell them about like, when I talk to them about church or when I talk to them about Jesus, they're like, wait, like you guys aren't like, and I think it's mostly just like that old traditional background. They're just like, you don't have to do this, you have to do that. I'm all like, no, dude, I just love people. I love God.
That's it. That's what Jesus said to do. Like, love God and love others. And that's it. I mean, there's things He commands us to do, and those are important. Like, I don't want to downplay like what the Bible says, but it definitely isn't like what maybe got made out to be like in the 80s and 90s when like you or I would have been growing up. That's that's not really it. Yeah.
It's so, and I think they labeled it like the deconstructionist movement, and I'm all like, I completely understand where those people are coming from, because I'm all like, growing up, like I went to church my whole life, and so I seen the good. Like my dad was on the board, and he had to fire a pastor, and that was like, he's like, dude, like I don't understand how this is a part of church, and I've seen so the bad in that. I've had pastors have affairs on their wife, and so I've kind of seen it all, and I tell people when I go to like they're like, oh, come watch me preach. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna let you know I've probably heard this preach just because I've been going to church my entire life. So if I don't look like I'm intrigued, or if I don't look like I'm like hallelujah jumping up and down, I just said it's nothing with you. It's just me just kind of locking in and trying to pick out the things that I don't know from what you're preaching. But it's weird, and especially now with this new generation of kids coming up, they're just all like, they're not intrigued whatsoever with like that tradition format, and I think it's because their parents have such a hatred for like that when they were growing up, or some sort of trauma from that when they were growing up. And so I work at a Christian school, so I get the lucky I get to start every day with like Bible devotions and like talking to the kids about not just their growing in their school journey, just growing in their spiritual journey. And there's like stuff that I'll say or stuff that I do. They're all like, that's a part of church. I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, I never knew that. Like,
Yeah.
I thought they were just supposed to hate everybody and judge everybody. I'm like, no, it's actually the opposite. But no, that's crazy how just in that little bit of time you guys went from like, hey, let's do this to now it's like 2 years in and you guys. I see because we're right across the corner, but I see people coming in and out here every week, and I'm like, and this is another thing. This is me on a church tangent, but like something that drives me crazy is like when people like hold people to their church or like don't want to see other churches present. I'm like, hey, we can't reach everybody in Collinsville or Fairmont or Maryville. Like we need really, really good local churches in the same area.
For sure. And that's why like we're so much about church planting and helping out other churches. I think I would say almost every weekend, I'm not saying every weekend, but almost every weekend, we're sending someone else to go help lead the worship music at another church or preach at another church. There was a church in Breeze, Illinois, it's about 45 minutes from here, that was really struggling. They wasn't going to make it. We stepped in and helped lead them from afar and like kind of train some leaders, and they're thriving now. And awesome. Like, then we really like, we got a guy who wants to start a church in Fairview Heights in 2027. He goes here now and he's doing some seminary and some other training to get ready for that. And we're not like closed handed with our people. Like, well, you can't take them because they're not our people. Like, they're God's people. So, man, we kind of have this motto around here: if you can lead them, you can have them.
Yeah.
So, like, if someone can, if they trust you enough to follow you, then like that's awesome. And we got to have. It's not just like having more churches, but it's about having like churches that are going to make an impact in the community and just helping people. Really, like sometimes in the hardest parts of their life.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that's where it gets like, and I can kind of get it because like a lot of churches are like you have to be kind of business ran as a church. Yes and no, I would say, but they like they just get so close of like, well, is this going to look good for a church? Oh, is this going to look good for a church? And sadly, I've seen like people turn away like members just because of like a homeless guy wanting a meal, and he's also like, hey, I just figured this is the church, and they're like, hey, we can't have you on our property right now, like we're about to start Sunday service. And it's like, why are we doing that? Like this is the mission to like at our hands and we're failing. And it's crazy to me. It's like because that's just not how, when I picture heaven, I don't picture like the Lutherans and
no, that ain't gonna be everybody divided up. It's just gonna be everybody, man. Yeah, we've had homeless people attending our church. We do right now. There's an individual that comes here. I'll kind of leave it at that. I don't want to like single anyone out. Yeah, they're here on a pretty regular basis. They don't cause any trouble or anything. We've had other homeless people come here. We've helped in any way that we really can.
For anything, it's just like, and I don't know if you guys do this, but like I know most churches do like donuts and coffee. At least anything, just give them some donuts and coffee. They'll probably.
We don't do donuts, but we do coffee. But yeah, anyone's welcome. People, that's what we want.
Yeah, which is how it's supposed to be. But that's awesome. I love to see you guys grow. So, mobile church. I've been a volunteer in a mobile church, and that's a lot of work, and especially you have to like rely heavily on like volunteers.
It's hard. Like I said, I got really, really blessed that like I was 11 months in and moved into a building. That is not the norm, but it's hard work because like we had a 16-foot trailer. It had all of our stuff for like a kids area, all of our speakers and sound equipment and everything we needed. We were really in a good, fortunate position that when we were renting the Knights of Columbus Hall, when this building they already had chairs here, so we didn't have to set up chairs. They were already there. And so that's huge because a lot of churches have to do that. But yeah, that's really normal to have like a trailer full of like that. They literally is a company called like Church in a Box. And they have like pre-packaged, here's your sound system, here's your kids stuff, here's your chairs, and you can like there's tiers you can buy, and it's just here's a church in a box for like setup and tear down. It's a lot of work. I feel sorry for anyone who's going through because I know, but it's worth it. I mean, like that's just where you got to start. You don't get to start usually up here you got to work for it. And, that's what we did.
Yeah, I went to a church that was in a movie theater, and it was every week. I was in college, so I only helped out every now and then. But the pastor was really like, "Yeah, this is where we're supposed to be right now." And he goes, "Yeah, some of the work is hard, but he goes, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else." And he goes, uh, "It's not every day that you can just." How he had a really positive mindset about it. He's all like, "It's not every day you just have 150 seats just open for you every week," and he's like, "No, we just got to fill them." And so it was like, all right.
And it's like kind of two sides to it. One, some people were more apt to come into a movie theater, or a school, or a different building that's not a church building.
Yeah.
And then there's other people who like have started coming to our church now because once you get your own building, they kind of see you as like a grown-up church almost. And so like there's two sides. Like there's people who you might not get because you're not in a permanent space, but then there's people you will get because you're not in a traditional church space.
Especially the nights of Columbus, you might be like, people be like, "What?" Like they were here the night before, like, "What? There's a church here tomorrow? I want to check that out."
There's times like it was still beer cans falling out of the trash cans. All right.
So, you're running for city council in Collinsville, and so first off, I hope your campaign's going great. I'm sure it's stressful.
It's got its moments.
Yeah. So talk about what it's like to start a campaign. Actually, we'll start before this. How do you become I guess what interested you in city council?
Well, so when I moved back to Collinsville to start the church, one of my biggest things was like, I want to be involved in the community. I don't want to just be like, hey, we're a church, come to us, because I think those days are gone, and I'm glad they are, honestly.
Yeah.
I think if we're not out in the community getting to know people, building relationships, and then helping and making a difference, why should someone want to come listen to you if you're not willing to be feet on the ground, getting after it? So started helping in any way I could. Started helping with the Italian Fest. I was over the souvenirs for years doing that. My sons have twins. They're freshmen at the high school. One of them, we may know both of them, but you coached Colton in football. And they were going to Webster to start kindergarten. There's a PTA table set up, and they're looking for parents to volunteer. And I was like, I'll do it. I can do that. Mm-hmm. And so I started helping, and through that I became treasurer, vice president, president for 2 years, and just helped and made a big difference. I was on before Collinsville Baseball Softball League. CBSL shut down, and the Parks absorbed that. The Parks District absorbed it. I was vice president on that and coached basketball, wrestling, baseball. My point in all that is there wasn't a whole lot that I wasn't willing to step in and doing. I even became chairman of the Italian Fest. I was co-chair 3 years ago and then chairman the past 2 years. And so when it came to all right, if I can continue to help make Collinsville a better place to live and impact people's lives for the better, where's that opportunity at? City council was it. It really was. It was a tough decision. I have twin boys. We have 3 kids total. We have a daughter we adopted through the foster care system. She's 21 now, works in Troy at a daycare. And then we have our boys that are twins or freshmen. So I got a few years left with them in the house. All right. But I feel like I can balance it. And so I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna run for city council because I think I'll be able to make an impact and make Collinsville one of the best places to live in the whole Metro East.
As a pastor, I'm sure you've heard it, or I know I've heard it even at just the youth level. Just all try to keep politics and church separate. What is that like when going into city council? And I know we kind of talked about this before, but it's not like you're running with a party.
No, it's nonpartisan. So even if it wasn't, the reality is I don't need to show up to a city council meeting or any other meeting that I do, whether it's the Italian Fest or something else. I'm on Park and Rec's advisory board for Collinsville right now. I don't show up there and start throwing out Bible verses and well, I'm a pastor. Now, if I get invited to something because I am a pastor, then I'd kind of put the pastor hat on, right? Yeah. But if I get elected, my faith like kind of is like the driving force of how I hope to live my life. But I don't know how to say this in a political way, so I'll say it like and just be like straight. What me and you were talking about earlier, like we're supposed to love God and then to love others. And so if I love others intentionally, that means I want like the best for them, no matter who they are.
Yeah.
And so I think that will be like a driving force for me to be like, well, how can I like care for those that live in Collinsville who are truly my neighbor?
Yeah.
And I don't. Yeah, I mean, there's just not going to be like decisions that are where I think my faith is going to come in question. I could be surprised, I suppose, but I don't see that as like a thing.
Yeah. No,
that's level of politics.
No, yeah. The thing is like what a lot of people don't understand is like even with like teachers, it's like because I am a Christian, it doesn't mean like I'm going to try to force you to become who I am. No. Because I'm a Christian, I'm going to love you first. And if that means you hate God, I still love you.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I'm not doing this so I can like try to convert people to like coming to Heights Church. Like we don't even have room for everybody. So like so no, man, my heart behind it's not. It's just I want to help people. Awesome. I want to help people and try to make Collinsville better. Yeah. Something.
So it's pretty. Since my 5 years of living here, it's been pretty evident. There's a homeless issue within our community now. It's not like St. Louis, obviously, but we're 25,000 people live there, and so. But it's like every day I see at least one person that is homeless on the street, whether that's 5 people in the whole community, but it's all like, you may see 5 in the community, like 5 people on the street, but how many people aren't on the street that are homeless and just kind of suffering in silence. So what would be like your solution or your idea or something like that to just kind of combat that homeless issue?
Yeah, so a couple things. One, from what the Collinsville Police Department says, there's about 20-ish homeless people in Collinsville. They go out actually and try to get counts on a regular basis, and so it's like Madison County, I believe it's like the health department will go out and they interact with them, and I'll get to that, but about 20-ish people. So as a pastor, I've gotten some interesting involvement with homelessness because we've had people just come up to the church and ask for help, and we've been able to put people in hotels, whether they came just because they just wanted a place to stay, to get a shower, and sleep on a bed, or because it's too cold outside, and there wasn't anywhere else to go. So we put them up in hotels, got food, clothes, sleeping bags, tents, personal hygiene, snacks. We've done it all to help out people because we're never gonna like just turn someone away if they legit need help and they're willing to do that. I remember like there was an 18-year-old kid that came to me once and was homeless. They kicked out of his parents' house. He rightfully so. I don't know, but he wanted help, and I tried my best to get him like back into school to get his GED and everything, and it fell apart. And it took like 2 weeks of my time. But I look at those kind of opportunities as worth it because you just never know. But in the time, and maybe it takes hold, So like I've had that experience, and then I've been on like in the conversations with like the previous city manager, the current city manager, city council, and the city of Collinsville has formed a homeless task force. And so back in like 17 to I think it's 18 and 19, then in 17 we were talking about it. And one of the pastors, the former associate pastor, First Baptist Collinsville, that I helped him. They started a warming center there. They have a gymnasium, they had showers, they had the kitchen, they had the facility to be able to do it. Volunteer base is the hardest thing to come up with. It takes a lot of volunteers, but I helped get that started. He later moved, and so that stopped. But then there's been a lot of conversations that the city has had, and I've got to sit in and be in those meetings with folks from Chestnut Health Services, Madison County. There's an organization called OWL that does a warming center in Alton and Edwardsville, and they've been kind of there. They would love to see Collinsville start a warming center, but it's going to require one of the churches to have a facility, which we just don't here. Like we don't have the space to do that. To step up and be like, hey, we'll do the warming center. And I'm not phenomenal churches in our community doing a lot of great things. The warming centers are always a conversation. What I find interesting about it now, I want to be like, I don't know. I said this in a video that this got released on Facebook today. Actually, I did a video talking about homelessness with a current city council member who's running for re-election, Donna Green. Out of 365 days in a year, only about 15 days on average actually would trigger a temperature that would activate a warming center. It has to be below 20 degrees and stay below 20 degrees overnight for a warming center to fire up for the night. And so there's 350 other days in the year that we need to what are we doing as a city for success? And so one of the things that I had advocated for and Donna Green advocated for was that we have someone who was going out on the streets, meeting with the homeless people, asking them, what do you need? How can we help you? Here are the resources that are available to you through Chestnut Health Services, Madison County Health Department. Can we help you get an ID? Because what we think, well, just go get a job. Well, okay, but if you don't have an ID, most people aren't going to hire you. And then here's the problem. If you don't have an address to put down for where you live, people get sketchy about that. Well, I don't know if I'm going to hire you. So there's people going out now from Chestnut Health Services, and since they've been going out, they've helped 3 people. They're having interactions every week. They're helping people get help with addictions, mental health issues, and helping them figure out their lives. Some people won't take help. That's the sad thing. It's not that they want to be there, but they, for whatever reason, they're so entangled in what's got them there. Whether it is an addiction or a mental health thing, and that's terrible. But the beauty is being in this task force, I've been able to advocate for let's get someone out there who can interact with. It's been said that Collinsville PD picks them up from Main Street and drops them off on the other end of town at the Gateway Center. That's not true. It's just not. Collinsville will pick them up. The police department, they will take them to the Gateway Medical Center in Granite City, and they can give them mental health, medical care, maybe addiction treatment, but they're only allowed to hold them for 2 days. And so if that person then is a patient now, a homeless person now is a patient, decides they want to leave, they can't do anything about that. Now, we don't go and pick them back up from Granite City and bring them back to Collinsville, not because we're mean or cruel or don't care, but we don't get notified. There's laws that communicate someone's health record, so you can't be calling the PD, hey, this woman just got discharged from the hospital, can you come get them? We're not their point of contact. And so they make their way back to Collinsville, and that's fine. This is where they live. Whether they live in a home or on the street, they still live here. And so our police department is super kind, reasonable with them. Now, if someone's breaking the law, if someone's causing harm to themselves or to others, loitering, then obviously the laws have to be there for a reason. But Collinsville's changed some of the laws. They were able to encampment rules, where people can't just set up a camp on sidewalks now. Kind of needs to be off the beaten path. They've made some areas considered parks, so that sets a curfew, so they can't be there. And that's not just to keep it out of the society, but it's for the sake. You have to consider homelessness in 2 parts. There's helping the people who are homeless, and then there's a reasonable expectation too. You or I, who's not homeless, you may not want to take your kids to a spot where you may have homeless people there who have been, maybe drinking or using. Not that all homeless people do that. I want to be kind in my words, but you get my point. So that some of these laws and rules are in place to protect all the citizens, all 25,000 of them. And so my hope, if I get elected, is to continue to see what's already taken place continue to happen. We have to have people out there on the streets having conversations with them, and then making it known publicly. That's something I advocated for very strongly. It's if the typical citizen does not know the rules of the laws, and the typical homeless person does not know where the help is, we're all going to miss each other. And when there's unclear expectations and unclear guidelines, there's nothing going to go well. And so, like, what Collinsville's done really well now is making sure that if they're homeless, here's all the help. There's literally printouts of like all the resources available to them, and then there are like they put out stuff on whether social media or like in the Collinsville scoop thing that goes out in the mail to say like, hey, these are the rules, these are the laws, so that people understand like what a homeless person has rights to do and what they don't have rights to do. And so, like, clear communication sets up a very good standard. Or like, okay, well, they can do that. They're allowed to do that. Or, I don't think that's gonna, that's not up to the law. It's not up to snuff.
Yeah. Something that, and I talked about this on my last, I talked about it on the podcast before. It's about, like, you know Alan Graham?
Yeah, and I listened to your podcast, and I think he was on the Joe Rogan show. Yeah, and I listened to that episode actually, and that's a really interesting thing. I mean, that's an individual. That's not the government doing that, And man, to have someone who says, "I've got this piece of property, I'm going to set up like basically a little village that you can come here, you can get clean, you can learn a skill, you can learn how to like function in a new way and get healthy." That's amazing. I mean, man, if we had someone who had the resources to do that, that'd be phenomenal.
Yeah, that's like I wish. And I've said before, like I'd be a terrible millionaire because I would not keep it for myself. Like I'd be like, hey, it's just how I think. Like, hey, I want to help people. I want to help people. But like, just that idea of something that he said is like those people are a part of. They want to be a part of a community that they're already a part of. And I think that's huge. Is just all like, hey, these guys might be homeless. They may not have a quote unquote address, but they're a part of this community. So
they are.
How can we help the people in this community feel like a part of this community? But and I know it's super hard for like a government to be like, okay, we're just gonna plow all this stuff and we're gonna build this here, and because that's probably not gonna go over well.
Well, in the government, that's not really like the government's spot to do that. That's where there are like individuals and nonprofits, other organizations, churches. But I'll tell you this about the city of Collinsville. What's interesting? I won't name other cities, but in other cities, that even the conversation of a warming center has created such an upheaval where the city government's like, no way are you doing that here, because they're afraid it will just attract homeless people. We've had 2 city managers, and both of them have advocated for and been 100% behind any church or any organization who wants to open up a warming center. And I think that's phenomenal, because what that says is like, we're not afraid of homeless people. We're not just seeing them as like a blight on our society and we got to get them out of here. Oh, what if we attract more? They're not saying that at all. They're saying, man, we've got your back. They've supplied police officers to go and be at those warming centers when it was functioning back before 2020. It takes resources, but it created a safer environment for that. And so that's what I want to see continue. And I'm fortunate that as I'm running for city council, I can say like, here's what I've actually helped, and here's what I've done and been part of. And like during COVID, from September of 2020 to March of 21, I got to lead a team of people, and every single weekend we had 2 to 3 semi-truckloads of food come and give it away. And that impacted not just homeless people, but so many in our community that were in need. That was a tough time. That was a really hard time. Probably the hardest time in our generation, for anyone. And we gave over 2 million pounds of food away over that 6-month span. So I just want to continue to lead in a way that's impacting.
Yeah, I think something that's cool is like you're not just running for city council because you want a spot. Essentially, you're doing the work already, just not with the elected.
And that's the thing. So I have this this is kind of where I've functioned my whole life. Is if you aren't willing to do the job without a title, you shouldn't. You don't deserve the title. If you weren't volunteer, and this is just me, if I would never ask anyone here in the church to clean a toilet or to mop the floor or to clean up a mess or to pick up stuff or straighten out chairs or anything. I had not done it myself. I will clean up the toilet. I'll shovel the snow. I don't care. I'll do it all because I can't ask someone to do something I haven't. I just feel like if you haven't volunteered in the city, you deserve a title. If you need a title to step up, there's an issue. Like that's about that serve. It's and that's unfortunately how a lot of people kind of lead nowadays. And so I started a group in my school, and so it's just like they get up their recess and they come to leadership. One of the things that we talked about last week was being the effects of being a kind of leader or something. I probably queued it up, but it was like the idea about like you don't have to like leading just anything with. So that's how I if you have influence. Like I'm a leader in my family because I'm my kid's dad. Like that's just my title's already there, but my leadership comes from the influence. So you don't need a title to lead, but wherever you have influence is like that's where you lead. You can either do that in a good way or a bad way. That choice is ultimately up to you. You know, yeah. And so and then we kind of weighed the pros and cons of like what is like being a kind leader, what is it like being a non-kind leader, and then even like in your classroom, like hey, where's the opportunity to be a kind leader? Where's the opportunity? I think that's kind of like talks that like I wish my generation would have had. Like growing up is like because you just thought I'll relate it to football just because that's a big part of my life is dedicated to football. It was like the seniors were the leaders and the freshmen carried the back. Yeah. And so when I was a senior, I'm like, I didn't like it. I'm not going to like it here in my past, you know. And so, and so now it's like when I get our football team, and I think Coach Rhodes does a very good job of like instilling leadership with these guys and letting them have opportunities to be leaders, even bigger leaders on their team. Is like this idea of servant leadership is like the most effective way to lead. Yeah, man. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like servant leadership. Like if you can't do for other people what you want done for you, then you're just missing. Like no one wants to follow someone who is like demanding and has like this expectation that you just should. There's got to be some humbleness that comes with being a leader to realize like, man, I don't have it all figured out. I don't have every answer to everything, and be willing to like put in the work, you know. So like, and that's my hope, man. With running for city council is that I've done a lot. I don't say it in a prideful way, but like I said earlier, you know, and as we've been talking, like everything from PTA to Park and Rec's advisory board, giving away food, Italian fest, coaching different sports for kids. I hope that I've made an impression. I'm really direct though, like, and that does like ruffle some people's feathers. I kind of a little straightforward, and I don't usually like try to blow smoke. It is what it is. Like, I don't know if that makes someone upset. I don't know if get over it. I guess. No, but I think like with being direct, that's like another like leadership flaws. Like people kind of try to lead to please feelings instead of lead to like change lives, you know. So sometimes like if my kid's acting up, like I don't want to be like, hey, like it's okay that you're doing this thing that's actually bad. Let's try not to do that. No, it's like hey, stop doing that. You know. And I think servant leadership doesn't mean weak leadership. Not at all. Your voice is gone. You're the lead. Lead. It's not a dictatorship, it's servant leadership. You're doing something, if you're doing something that's not going to benefit like you, your mental health, anything like that, it's my job to be like, hey. But, so the reason why I kind of reached out to people of the city council to kind of start doing a podcast and like I told you, and like I told, I made the disclaimer little things like it's nothing political, it's nothing, nothing like latching onto a candidate. It's just like, hey, when I think of city council, it's like something I think my grandparents. It's like I'm a young dad who is in the process of my kids are 2. Like I want to know
like where I want to plant my roots with my family. And that's with obviously the city I live, the school that they go to, everything that encompasses that. So it's like, I think it's super important for young voters. I mean, I'm 26, so I've only been allowed to vote for 8 years. But it's like when you think of these grand, like the big elections, and it's like, hey, vote, 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 vote. And then it's like the local elections where we actually have more power with our vote. We just don't.
Yeah.
We just don't do it.
And part of that, like, you got to think about it. So April 1st is the day for, like, there's some early voting before that, but April 1st is the main day for voting. And the reality is, dude, is most people have, like, politics fatigue right now. Like, we just got bombarded for the past year about the presidential election and, like, current, like Senate and Congress elections and stuff, which are huge and they matter, and that's really important. But the reality is like sometimes right here, like down at this local level, is where it's going to impact you more because, like you just said, like you got kids, you're trying to decide if you want to like set your roots here and like really call this home, or your kids would say like, yeah, where are you from? I'm from Collinsville. Well, like the parks are going to matter, the baseball fields are going to matter, the tax rates that you pay are going to matter, the amenities and services that the city offer to you. That's all gonna. That's like the president, Senate, Congress. They're not getting in the weeds with that stuff down at this level. It doesn't work that way. And so that's where you can kind of think of like the city council is like setting the charge. Like they're not down in the weeds sometimes. That's why we have amazing like different departments within our city government. The streets department, the parks department, the water department, whatever. Like they're coming and they do these 2x2 meetings where there's 2 city council members present. That's required there. And those things get recorded, and so then like they're getting in and having conversations with like the different people, whether it's the planning commission or the like ordinances, things like that, to talk about those things. And so then when they come together as a city council, they can have discussion, dialogue, and vote on those different things. So, the city council member, they do a lot of stuff. They show up to 2 meetings a month, which is a couple hours. And that part, that's like, okay, well, then there's like kind of this being. So there's like, so if you open up a business and they did a ribbon cutting, city council members are encouraged to be there along with them. So that part, swearing in police officers and firefighters, yard of the month kind of thing. So like some of those are just little things that take up some time though. So there's now you got more hours in the month. There's having those 2x2 meetings. There's having a lot of study and understanding of stuff because you don't want to come there to a meeting and not understand what the heck you're talking about. Yeah. You have to decide on things like business district where there's different taxes and where that money gets applied because what I'm learning as I do this. So like I thought a business district would just be more like a zoning thing. A business district is where the businesses in that area collect a different tax, and that money goes into a pot. And so then, if you were to upgrade the facade of your building, there's a matching grant sitting there from the city that's collecting this tax. The city doesn't have a budget; it's there, so you can re-brick that side of our building. Sweet, we got money to help you. So, like that's helping like figure that kind of stuff. Those things, and some stuff like that. Do that. So these businesses allow you to go up. Businesses look nice. So there's a lot to figure out. And it comes into the city council. Really, they play a huge role in helping lead the direction of our city with the city manager.
Something that I love about Collinsville is like I feel like this is such a like community. So like I make the joke like we have a parade for everything. There's like a parade for everything, but I make that joke in like the loving effect of like, hey, like our community loves to do stuff. Italian Fest, Worst Trash Festival, stuff like that. That it's all like, why do they do that? I may not know the history why, but I love the fact that you can just literally take time out of your busy schedules to just like see people, get how many people farm in this community. That it's small, but it's big. I just love even coaching football here. I coached for my hometown team where I grew up. It's like I got my first branch of like community life. It's not trying to take a shot at Jerseyville, but it's like this town really loves, is like rooted in love for people. And so I think definitely like this election, and I think the stats were like only out of 25,000 people, only 3,000 of them. It's like, what did it look like?
Drastically down. I just fear like that there will be a lower turnout. Over the past 3 local elections cycles, it's a total of 35 people, 25,000 all registered voters. So the turnout in April 1st could be anywhere from 2,000 to let's say 4,000, somewhere in there. It's going to fall, and so that's why like every vote matters a lot. My hope is that to win. I don't like losing at anything, so like I hope to win. But it takes a lot of work. It really does. It's hard. I didn't know what campaigning would be like. You got to get out there and put signs in people's yards, and you got to get permission to do that. And they got to believe in you to let you do it. You got to go knock on doors. Kind of waiting for the weather to get a little bit better. It's still soon to be knocking on doors right now. It's cold. I don't want to stand outside and talk to anyone. I don't think they want to stand out there and talk to me when it's freezing cold either. Those days will come in the near future. Trying to, fundraise, and I did a fundraiser at Birch Chuck Wagon. Like I was trying, all right, man, if I'm gonna do a fundraiser, it needs to be like the most Collinsville thing. And I was like, you can't go more Collinsville than getting some tacos at Birch. So they do their on Sundays. They'll open up special for a fundraiser and do a taco bar. Yeah. And so we did that. That was awesome. Yeah, we did a mission trip our mission trip fundraiser. Yeah, he's awesome too. Roger's awesome. The cool thing was like it's not like, hey, we're gonna open it up like just so, well, he's involved. He's working. He's there. He's serving food. Him and Roger and Steve, man, up there, they're great. I love going there. So get to meet people and try to raise some money, eat tacos. It's like full in across the board. So when you started realizing like, hey, I wanna run for this, what was like the kind of the first steps of like, okay, I gotta put it. So, man, the paperwork you gotta fill out, and you gotta get signatures. And so I made sure I filled out the paperwork to a T, because they can get challenged and they can get thrown out if you don't do it right. That's fine. You gotta follow the rules, So I made sure that I filled everything out, correct language, and everything printed out and just right. And then you got to get signatures. And so in Collinsville, you got to get 25 signatures run for city council. I don't know what it is for like other positions, like the school board of that. I just know what it is for run for city council. So they said you got to have at least 25 signatures. I got over 50 just to be safe. There was really no reason to go get more than that, just as long as you had 25. So I turned in the paperwork, and then there's people who I know who have ran for office before, and were able to give me some insight. Green, who's city council member, she's from the election. She's been wonderful. Like tips and coach me, like, hey, this is what you should do. This is how you got to do it. But there's little things you don't know about. If you did a fundraiser and then you get like signs made, it needs to say paid for by political committee or friends of like mine say paid for by friends of David Seaton. I didn't know that. You could go read all that on the internet, but it sure is nice that if you got someone like kind of saying, hey, make sure you do this. Like I've been there, done that. Maybe failed at this, did well at this. Yeah. So, I'm just kind of learning as I go. Yeah. And it's interesting running for like a local election. Like everybody kind of knows everybody in Collinsville, like on some level. Like not maybe, but they do. It's 25,000 people is a lot, but it's not. And so people already have opinions. They could either love me, hate me, whatever. I don't know. I got a way of ruffling feathers sometimes.
I hadn't realized that the fact that it's doesn't come like I don't say that from a place of like so it's just me. It can only be me. I don't want to be anybody else.
It's hard. I mean, if someone doesn't like me, and I haven't given them a reason to not like me, then I apologize. I mean, most people shouldn't be okay with someone who's not liking them. That's gonna be the hardest thing for me. Is like running through the office. There's just gonna be people who just don't say. I mean, there'll be people who watch this podcast and I'm sure he's an idiot, whatever they might think. I mean, there's gonna be people who like really like me, and if I get elected, I'm gonna make decisions as I vote, and there's gonna be people who are gonna like not like me, and people who love me, and
I think that'd be the hardest thing is like voting for something I know that they like dead set like I'm trying to say this in a way that's like I don't know, like it's like, hey, I think this is the thing best for the city, but these group of people might not. It might really, really hurt them. But I'm like, hey, I have an obligation to do what's right for the city, so if I gotta vote for this, and like just having those people think I'm like horrible. That'd be where I'd be like, oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah, it's hard because I mean, like you could vote for something and be in favor of something that you know is going to have the majority of the city, but maybe it affects small contingency of the city's pocketbook. You start messing with people's money, they get mad real quick.
People don't like when you mess with their money.
No one
whether
does.
It benefits the city or not.
Yeah, no one does though. I mean, no one wants to spend more money if they can get it cheaper, right? So I get that.
So something that I've noticed in Collinsville is like with the Gateway Center and the stuff right here, like that's a beautiful kind of tourist attractions. I've seen like dance competitions go through there. Even like there's like a local church pastor thing, and it was there that I've been to before, and it's like this is a big. And we may not see this like living in the community, but this is like a big, it's a local community. So how's like a way that we can kind of not get too touristy hippie community, but also realize this.
Yeah, I mean, the cool thing about it makes it like almost like this hidden gem that people miss sometimes is that all the interstates intersect. It's like we're so easily accessible. It's like it's just as far to Belleville, Fairview as it is to go middle. And so like we're just in a good location, convention center. It's always got something going on. It's attracting more people. Our hotels maintain like a 60 some odd percent occupancy permit, like occupancy where they're filled. That's pretty good. And then we have food and beverage tax. And so when people are coming here and spending money that don't even live here, that food and beverage tax is going, which is huge. And so like, the city's done a really good job ensuring that group of people who are not city residents don't live here, coming here. You have to think like 157, man. Like that's all the stuff that's like off. You can get off the interstate real quick and hit a restaurant. They got more restaurants that are supposed to be coming in the near future. And so it's something that Collinsville needs to do is to continue to work to grow like the amenities and services and restaurants and things here on 157 because this is where you're going to get the biggest draw from people coming off the interstate and stuff and be more like a destination to land. And, our baseball fields are just right down the road off 157 there off Collinsville Road. That's something like there's talks about how to redo those. And there's been some things that came out that were like maybe a little bit too high and lofty of an idea that weren't going to pan out. It wasn't going to be able to pay for itself in enough time, and it was going to cost the city too much. And so I'm on the Park and Rec's advisory board. Got to hear kind of some more detail about that, but it was going to take too long to pay for itself. So we're like they're in like a retooling that, trying to package it in a different way that'd be more sustainable and be able to cover the cost. But when you have like these really good baseball fields, hopefully that's the goal, is that's going to bring in tournaments and stuff. And that's people coming in, seeing this as a destination. Will it be fun? That draws in people from all over the place. It's a great attraction. As silly as it's going to sound, wait till the weather's good. Like you and I see the Ketchup Bottle every day, but when the weather's good, there's always like someone out there taking a picture of it because like it's a spot to stop. And we have Route 66, which there's people who like literally make vacations out of driving Route 66. And so we're right there on that. And so like that's right by our main street. So like we want to focus on getting better restaurants and good things up there on Main Street too.
Something that I forget sometimes, and when people are all like, "Oh, you live right by the racetrack," sometimes we don't think about it because it's like Collinsville is also, is it considered Fairmont?
No, that's in the city limits. Yeah, the city limits go all the way down to Black Lane. And so the racetrack's there. You know, FanDuel has bought them, and they're going to be expanding with the casino there. That's going to bring a lot of revenue to the city. There's going to be a hotel then is in the works, and that's things they're going to be working on. I think they're going to be doing some work on the inside first, and then they'll be doing the work on the outside later. And so, man, when that all expands, that's going to draw a lot of people in to an area where there's not a lot of people going right now. But that's going to be there. I think that's going to be a good thing. So,
yeah, definitely on that strip there. It'd be cool to see more because you like Ramon's there. It's closed now, and it's like it'd be cool to see something go there. Even our church building. I know it's like it's right there, so we kind of can see it. Yeah, man, it's. I've never been to the racetrack. But you know where the racetrack is? For me, it's just like something I drive by. It's literally something. Yeah, it's something I haven't even been 4 to 5 years of being here. It's just that. Yeah, it's a huge draw. So, kind of closing out, what would you say is like this kind of might be a repeat question, like the driving force of why you're doing this? Because I think a lot of times when we see people running for office, we just see we kind of just see them as somebody doing something instead of somebody. It's like, oh, I'm a human. They're like a political figure. It's like I want to get with this. It's like I want people. You know what I mean? So what's like been your driving force of life? Even if I tried to fail.
So there's a couple ways I want to answer that. One of the other pastors, it's Roy Johnston. He's described me before. He even made a Facebook post about this when we were running. Kind of like this heat-seeking missile. You put me on a task, I'm going to figure out a way to get it done. And so, and I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm not afraid to like get down and in the dirt and get dirty doing something, and I'm not afraid to like be thinking on the 30,000 foot level. And so I feel like I'm wired to be a good leader. And when I get set on a task, I'm going to figure out a way to get it done. It may be the unorthodox way. It may seem like kind of like, what the heck's this dude doing? Like, why is he doing that? But I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to work hard. And so if people want to vote for me, what they're voting for is someone who's going to really bust their butt for the city. And I think that Collinsville has some of the best potential. We have great diversity of people. I think we as a city, like you talked about the festivals and stuff, horseradish, smoking on Main, Italian fest. Like we have a strong sense of community. I want to see that like continue to be like grown. I want to see people like thinking like, man, I can be proud to live here. I can be proud to live here. I want to send my kids to Collinsville School District. I want this, like there's good housing here. The neighborhoods look nice. It's clean. Like people keep taking care of their properties. And all that sometimes like starts from the top down of like people like setting the trajectory for where we're going. And I feel like I can help cast good vision for where we need to go. I really do. I've been doing it for years in different sectors of the city and as a leader in a church. And I really think that I can bring some outside the box thinking, continue doing some of the stuff I've already been doing, We'll be able to.
So you said your role here is, you say missionary,
Missions and church
planting,
planting.
and church planting. So what's some of your roles for is that's like that's something you're very much in church. Is like dedicated to this.
Yeah, so like we send mission teams out to Mexico. So like just coming, we got a team going to Mexico, Monterrey, Mexico, to help the church there. We got a team going to Puerto Rico to help continue like rebuilding the houses after the things I think years ago. We've got a team going to Indonesia. Some work there. Like there's a lot of logistics that come with planning flights, trip insurance that you can have mission trips, and like if someone gets sick, where Indonesia, you might need to get sick or so insurance for that. So I kind of do all the behind the scenes, but then it's like also recruiting of people to go on these teams because like somebody like Indonesia, I don't know if I'm like to Mexico on a mission trip. I'm there casting vision on why they should go and why they could make an impact and make a difference. And then we do local missions as well. We're working right now to, we still have that 16-foot trailer that we started with when we were setting up and tear down, and this is sitting empty. We're going to outfit it for a disaster relief trailer. And so whether that's like heading and sending a team out to like North Carolina to help with flooding, or send a team to like help in California with wildfires, or if we had an ice storm here and some tree limbs fell in someone's yard or on someone's house, and we can send a team to go over there and like some chainsaws and everything and cut that up, then we're going to have like a trailer outfitted with everything we need, from chainsaws and safety gear, generators, like a small cooking station, so we need to like get some food for somebody, things that we could go and like just help out if there's like something that's a disaster based, or something bad that's happened to somebody. So I'm kind of I oversee that, and then like with the church planting side, it's like being involved and helping train people. It's hard, man. It's hard to go start a church from scratch. It's a lot of work, and there's a lot that goes into with training, fundraising, doing like studies to understand the economics of a city, because it makes a difference in how you should like try to reach people. Everyone's different, so like depending on where you're going, starting church, you gotta understand that demographic. So I work with people to understand that and help lead out in those ways to get people ready to do that.
I think that's something that I think more churches need. It's like just someone that's like, hey, I want to build up our people here to send them out, which is how it's supposed to be.
We don't want to just keep people here for us. So we want to send people out so we can lives. So I hope that city council just send church dressed in.
So you said you adopted your oldest through the foster system. What was like the adopting a child process like? Did you guys start as foster parents?
Yeah. We already had boys. They were twins. They were 3 at the time. She was 9. She came live with us. The parental rights were already terminated, so that makes the experience a little different. We have a huge foster care ministry in our church. We have 30 foster care or adopted families in our church. And when the poor kids' parental rights are terminated, that's never the goal to see their rights terminated, the parental rights to bio parents. We want to see like reunification. That's the biggest goal. We have a ministry called FAM, so it's a family advocacy ministry. And so we, like, if you went to our church and you started fostering, we surround you with a team of people that's helping you, because it's hard, man. Like, you already got kids. You might have a kid that has a lot of medical needs, and there's a lot of doctors appointments, so they help navigate all that. When we did it, we didn't have any of that. We were living down in Benton at the time. The church loved us well during that, but we didn't know. She didn't have our daughter didn't have any visits with her bio mom. She just couldn't live with us. And it's like, it's crazy, dude. Like, there's like, here's a kid. And then you got like, when they're younger, it's different. But when she's 9, she couldn't emotional bond to us. And so like we missed out on 9 years of their life trying to like let her know like, hey, we love you, we care about you, we want you in our family. It's hard, dude. Fostering is one of the hardest things that you'll do. And we were fortunate to be able to adopt her after her being there for about a year or so. And she's 21 now, doing well, working in Troy at daycare, doing good.
Yeah, especially like 9 years. Like there could be a because we adopted my sister when she was 16. And it was like there's a certain amount of trust they feel growing up, and it's like I know 16 is a little bit older than even.
You don't end up in foster care because your life is going on.
Yeah,
right. Like that's usually like something messed up's happened. Usually, I mean, I don't know everyone's story, so I don't want to just like put a blanket statement over everybody. By no means, most likely, you got taken away from your biological parents or something not good happened there. And there's a lot of things that can happen, situations. And so it's hard, man, because like there's trauma that's happened. There's a hardening sometimes. They have attachment disorders. They don't trust people. The drugs in their system from just being drugs. Kids who came into care, into a family in a church, had the kids that tested positive just because parents are picking them up. So some sad situations. That's what we're called to step in and help. That's what we're called to help. It's really clear to care for the orphan widow. And so I think that's not. I think that verse gets taken. Thinks that literally means orphan and the widow. No, it means like the orphan and the widow would be the least fortunate of the culture and society. And so when it's written in James, it says to care for the orphan and the widow. That's true religion. That's pure religion. What the Bible is getting at is caring for the least fortunate people who know where to go. Care for them. Care for them. And that's why that's what we do. I think that can go on some larger scale. Here in the local church, but then locally in the city too. That can be done in a way, like we already talked about. It's not like I don't want someone's doing. I can help you no matter what faith you are. No faith at all. Like I still have a responsibility to care for people. And sometimes the people who so
it's huge. Yeah, that's something that's like this thing. I think more like foster parents need to be not just trained, but it's like there's a lot of people that for that reason. It doesn't like it affects the kid more.
it does. A lot of these kids get what they call disrupted. And so like they don't stay in a foster home because there's not enough support around the foster family. And then like it gets hard after the honeymoon phase is over, and then they get moved to a new home, and that's terrible when they're bouncing from home to home. Check out the statistic. It's been said that if every church in Illinois would have one foster family, there would be no more need for foster families that could be placed in home. Because like what we don't realize is these foster care workers that work at DCFS, saying like they're having to have kids sleep in their office. There's no budget for like feeding these kids a meal. So like we're providing like one of the things our church does, like we stock their offices with snacks in Madison County. And we give them gift cards to DCFS workers. So like if something happens, a kid comes in the fair and it's 9 o'clock at night, because that happens, cops get called out, kids are involved in the situation, they get taken out of the home. This kid may be hungry, has an ache, and now that foster care worker has to like figure out how to feed that kid. They're not like rolling in it, with their salary. And so if they got to go take a kid to McDonald's, and then now there's 10, 12, $15, on the kid. So we provide them with gift cards so they have money like sitting there so it's not coming out of their pocket to help them do that. But if every church had one foster family in it would be such a huge impact.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of like how many churches are like just in Collinsville.
with one. I don't know how many there is.
Churches in Collinsville, 30 some odd churches.
So that's 30. Let's say one kid, that's 30 kids that no longer you don't if you're building them up in your church correctly, that's 30 good foster care.
Yeah.
So that's just thinking of community wise, 30 people's a lot.
Yeah, and there's some great organizations out there. There's an organization called the Restore Network that does trainings and continuing education for foster care families. And man, if someone comes in to being a foster care family, they provide them with they can help get a bed, clothes, or crib, or whatever they need, and with all that stuff, training and stuff. It's really awesome. So there's a lot of cool resources out there for foster care. That's a big part of our heart.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most important ministries that every church should be hey, we should find a way to at least fund something within foster care. I just think it's just important.
It is, and I want to be careful of that because one of the things there was the conversation about churches doing a warming center, and not every church has a facility to do it, but not every church may feel like they're supposed to do it. A church, I'll give you an example. Living the Word Church over across from the Aqua Park in Collinsville. Man, that church is crushing it with helping people who are out on parole, prison, get rehabilitated and just back into normal society.
Yeah.
They're doing a phenomenal job. So to say oh well, they should be doing a warming center. Yeah, but they're crushing it at that. So let's let them do that. And our church is doing foster care, and so there's another area of the vulnerable and the orphan or widow, if you want to call it that, and that we're caring for them. And so then I got other churches who are doing things for maybe this senior adult elderly, in our community, doing a really good job at that. You got churches that are just doing different things, and so if more churches said, "Hey, I want to get involved in foster care," I'd be yeah, that's awesome. But also, I want to cheer them on, hey, you're doing a great job of serving the elderly community in our city.
Yeah.
Keep it up. And you're doing a great job of helping, parolees get rehabilitated. That's phenomenal. Keep that up. And that's what we need. We need in our city, we need churches who are looking at every sphere of our community and how do I get involved in this? Where do we best fit? And then, regardless if you're a Christian or not, we should still care about each other.
Yeah.
Right? We should just care about each other and care about the people living next to you, care about the people who live across town, in a different part of the city. How do we contribute to make this a better place to live, regardless of our faith? We live here, so we should take some pride in where we live, and we should want to make it a great place.
Agreed. Yeah, I know Pastor Hawk at the church. He was one of my professors at.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
But yeah, I think the big thing is we kind of talked about this earlier. Churches wanting to so unwilling to work with each other. It's just pursuing Jesus at the same time. You can hear on Sundays still with each other to still meet in separate places. So it's I like what you said about in the sphere that you benefit most. I think a lot of churches do that, but at the same time, it's they church and not churches. I'm saying churches, but it's if we had 30 churches working with each other, 10, 25,000 people, just working to better in every aspect, whether it's getting people, whether it's the foster system, or even if it's hey, you got foster people, should addicts, and we're trying to get their lives turned around. It's what would a community look like if something like it's hey, it's hey, for you, you said earlier, keeping people here. It's like, hey, I don't have the best sphere of influence in that, but I'm going to work with you to get to that. Or get to that. That's huge. This is where not like you're not.
It may even be like, be here on Sundays, but if you want like this church can help.
I'm rooting for you. Glad we talked. Yeah. It's definitely, and I hope campaigning, everything like that goes well. Hoping you get where you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys for watching.